try to support that and film what was going on. So we're back. I'm just opening right now all the browser tabs. Now it's trying to find a way for me to play Spotify, but it's actually giving me some issues right now. So I'm just gonna play it, and if the audio sounds terrible, which it might, I'm going to switch the mic settings. So now it should be able to capture the audio, not terribly, but we'll see how it actually plays. So it seemed like it was fine while I was playing. This is all royalty-free music. Not terrible. It could be worse. At least there's something, you know? And these are all royalty-free music. There's a playlist on Spotify. I'll link to that once this video stream is done. If you guys hate a song, or if I hate a song, I'm going to skip it, but you guys can tell me that you want me to skip it. So what we're doing now is we have the basic sketch already done, and all we really need to do from there is we need to just adjust a couple different things. So what I usually like to do is I like to kind of prepare it for Photoshop and Illustrator the way I would actually work. So we're going to do that, and we're going to see how far we can get. So the sketch is done. The main thing to do now is to actually ink over it. Now there's some letter forms that aren't exactly perfect. That's okay. It's kind of an abstracted graphic. So all we need to do now is, now that we have everything else set up, I'm going to just move my iPad closer. The main thing we're going to do is we're going to actually open all of our layer panels again. And then I'm just going to scroll down, and we're going to just start inking over everything. I'm going to get rid of this little signature that I had when I posted it to social media stuff. We have these gradient lock layers on here, which are not too bad. They're pretty good. It's good to have them in place. And these are just color overlays. So if we were to remove some of these color overlays, you wouldn't even see half of these details, right? So we're just going to remove some of them because there's really no need to look at them right now. And let me just show you guys some other stuff, because I cut the other stream kind of short last time. And I wanted to show you guys sort of the process of all this stuff. So this is the original sketch right here, if you guys can see that. I'm not sure if it's playing. Hang on. We might have a bit of a connection issue. Let me just double check to make sure. Yep, we do. Hang on a second. Okay. All right, so yeah, this is the actual sketch that I started with all the letters. So these are all the letter forms I made through those grids, if you guys watched the last stream. And you can see everything's uniform and it has a consistency to it. And this is the first sketch. I then manipulated to fit the board a little bit better by using some distortion and warp tools. And that basically gave me what these letters are. So I was able to kind of stretch things out, bring some things closer, make them a little bit tighter. And there's still some things that are not quite perfect in my opinion. So when you look at some of the other details, like these here, which are weird little like veiny things and whatnot, you can kind of see this is all done with a pencil brush. So it's not super solid. But everyone's like, oh, it looks really good. I like how this is. I'm like, I don't think it's exactly where it needs to be yet. So what we're going to do next is we're going to turn off this layer, turn off these ones. I'm actually going to group these all together. So there we go. So those are grouped. And then we'll hide those. And then this one here, we're going to turn off the yellow, so we just have one color to work with. We're going to add one new layer. I actually have to remove one, so we're going to delete our old guide layer. We'll make this new one here. We're going to turn off the background color, so we have something to actually look at that we can see. And then we're going to pick a color like black, and we're switching to an inking brush. So I'm actually going to go in and find a nice inking brush that's really clean. We could even do, actually, you know what? I could even do some other stuff, but we're going to do this streamlined technical pen just to see if we can get all the forms done really quickly. And it's not too bad, but one of the things I'm running into now is I can't really see what I'm sketching. So let me just get rid of some of these distractions. We're going to turn this background color to like a light gray so I can see everything a little bit easier. And that's all it is just so I can see. I'm zooming in now just so you guys can kind of see what I'm working with. You can see the brushes I'm working with, and I also adjusted the screen size so it should be a little bit easier for you guys to see everything. And the color looks a lot better than it has been, but it's still not quite accurate. And all I'm doing right now is I'm just inking, trying to get a nice clean sketch going. And there's going to be some other issues with this that you'll see, like until I move into Photoshop and Illustrator, that they're kind of unavoidable. That's okay. Like the main focus is just to get the outlines as close as possible to what I want them to be. I'm not really feeling this brush either. Actually, I think a little bit of texture might even help in the process when I go to do a live trace in Illustrator. So I'm going to go into some of the other brush styles I have. Let's see what I got. So I have, there's actually a couple. Debaser one's good. The Rusty Nib brush set from True Grit Texture Supply. Yeah, this one's great. When you really zoom into, like if you up the size of the brush, you can really see it's got like a nice kind of soft texture. That one I really like. And there's a few other really smooth ones that they do that are really good for this kind of thing. We wanted to have that texture though. We wanted to have kind of that really loose feel to it. A little bit more rough. There's so many brushes to choose from this pack, so it's hard to find one that I remember from using. There we go. Nope. All right, too textured. I don't want to deal with like trying to fill it in. I just need like a simple inker. It's too watery. Yeah, there's a lot of brushes. When you get a brush pack from them, it's definitely worth it for the money, in my opinion. This one's good. There we go. Yeah, that's a nice brush right there. I like that one. So this is supposed to react actually how like a inking brush would work. So like a Winsor Newton number 7, I think is what this one's based off of, which is a really popular inking brush by comic book artists and illustrators the world over. So I think that's what this one's trying to imitate. At least that's what it looks like to me. I've only had the experience of using one of those twice because they're expensive and they're kind of hard to find actually, so there's kind of a reason why I don't use them that much, but hopefully I can get another one soon. I don't really get to ink like I used to anyway with traditional stuff, so I'm pretty much just stuck doing sculpted lines with like microns and things like that. And the only reason I'm doing this now is I just want to like create a nice solid filled letter that's a little bit easier to work with when I bring it into Illustrator. So this is just a quick trace of outline of the letter. And you can use the snap grid points if it's helpful for you. Like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect. We're going to be using Adobe Illustrator afterwards and why we're going to be doing that. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to be able to create some nice shapes. Now I could do that directly, like right away. I could just bring this sketch into Illustrator, but I want to keep some of the texture that's in there, you know. So that's one of the things I'm working on now. Yeah, and sorry if the music is terrible. It's just this is all the royalty-free music I can find, and this is kind of like a little hack I just thought of while I was on listening to Spotify before I started the stream. I was like, oh wait, there is a royalty-free music playlist. There's a couple of them on Spotify, so I just picked one that's got like a decent amount of people following it, and I was like, all right, we'll try this one. If there's any like songs you like, I can't see the player right now, but the next stream there is an app I can stop and will show you what song I'm listening to with all that like on the screen. fill this in. So you can see all I'm doing really is just kind of making little adjustments to get a fairly solid all black letter. Other brushes that I could use these smoother ones actually by another YouTuber. Ghost Paper makes some really nice brushes. So there's like these inking ones that I really like. They're pretty smooth. Yeah, we might even stick to that because it's a little bit more solid. So I'll definitely know that it's full and filled in. So like this one, I already got to like go all the way around and fix a bunch of stuff that I don't want to deal with. So that's a little annoying. Let's just start that over. We'll use this brush the entire time because that's just not going to fill. So that's one of the things. Still, there's still some issues with Procreate brushes. They're not perfect. I know everyone really loves Procreate. I love it. It's a great app, but it's not like a finalized program in my opinion. Like there's still other things that you need to really get it to function. If you're a professional, there's things that you're looking for that aren't here yet, but it's getting damn close. Really, it's not meant for intense like graphic design work. It's meant for visual illustration stuff. That's like what its primary focus is. So it's like you can still do a lot with it. It's just not quite there yet. But I'm hoping the next version, if they keep improving on it like they have been, one, I don't know how they've been able to keep it only $10 or whatever it is right now. I don't know if it's gone up, but I got it for $10 and I was like, this is insane. Everything that you can do with it. Now the brushes and stuff, obviously, that's like another added expense. But even with the stock brushes in here, there's a lot you can do. And I'm still working on trying to figure out how to make my own brushes. I'm going to be making some textured brushes that mimic like the China markers and other weird pens that I use that aren't as common. One, just to have them for myself, and then I know a lot of people always ask like the different materials I'm using, so I might make them available for people, and might even make that a Patreon exclusive type thing. Just because I've been trying to figure out what to put on Patreon, and people are like, "Oh, you should do Patreon." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know what to put on there as like a reward because I don't make enough content really." But people have been telling me to get on it for a while. I started one when I first started YouTube actually, because that's like when they're like, "Oh, you should have one right away," so it's just ready to go. But I never really added anything to it. I was going to do a sticker club thing like some other people that I follow on Patreon. But it just got to the point where I was like, if there's not enough people, then I have to make all these stickers for like 2 or 3 people. That's not worth it, in my opinion. So it would have just been too expensive to do. I wouldn't have been actually utilizing Patreon for what it's for to help fund the channel. It would have just been like an added expense at the time. But now this is actually by next Friday, the access to the Discord server become Patreon tier. So if you didn't join, you don't join within the next week of streams, you will actually have to become a Patreon subscriber to get access to the Discord. And once you have access, you only have to do it for one. And I'm gonna make it as cheap as possible, the cheapest tier that I'm allowed to do on Patreon for it. But that way, if you're an early adopter of Discord with my channel, then you'll have access to it. So, and this is like anyone watching this stream in the future. It's a pre-recorded stream. All the dates and links are in the description, and the link will actually disappear within 24 hours. So, if you want to join the Discord server for free and not have to wait or not have to become a Patreon subscriber, you can do that. You just have to click the link and then join up, and you'll be good to go. I also didn't really plan this stream ahead of time. Like normally I put a lot of thought and time into that's a lie. I put a decent amount of thought and time into my streams or when I'm going to do it as far as like a schedule goes. I just like wanted to work on this board, and I know people wanted to see some more of that finishing process, so I figured, all right, I want to work on it now. I'm not gonna wait until there's a proper time to stream it. That's one of the things about doing creative work on YouTube. It's kind of stressful trying to do that. You know, it's like I want to keep doing what I'm doing, but I don't want to have to like wait on an audience for it. I just want to be able to make stuff, you know. So another thing that I just thought of, as far as doing like fills and whatnot, you can actually just grab your selection tool if you have a lot of straight lines and things like that. You can actually just grab your selection tool, and you can actually just do that. You can use your selection tool as your mask essentially to fill things. So let's try that to speed this up a little bit because I'm getting bored. And then you can just drag it in, boom, filled. And then you can just go in and clean it up however you want to clean it up. Another thing that I could do is actually use the freehand. And the cool thing about it is you can draw with it exactly where you want, or you can hit little anchor points like I'm doing right now. And that's one of the great things about this little selection tool in here. I think they did a really good job with this one, actually. I think they nailed it on that. And then for the areas that are hard to just drop a color into, just grab a brush and fill it in roughly, nice and fast. Just like that. Alright, no views, and we're what? 20 minutes in? Not a big deal, it's fine. A lot of people's schedules are all over the place. When I try to figure out what's the best time for the stream, I get a lot of mixed results, and I don't really know what works best for everyone yet. And this song doesn't sound fun, so let's skip past this one. I'm just gonna turn the music up a bit. I'm just gonna keep going. Hopefully, if you guys are hitting the chat stuff, I'll get a little notification or something. Also going to be trying to do some dual streams really soon, which is something that's going to be new. There is a way to simultaneously stream between a couple platforms, so I'm trying to figure out which ones I want to do. I still haven't really figured out Twitch yet, and if it's worth the time. There's also like to stream on Facebook and things like that. So I have a Wolf Pits Facebook page. If you guys want to go and like that page, and let me know if it's easier on Facebook, or if you still want me to try to figure out Twitch. It's just been a lot going on, obviously, in the world, and it hasn't been my focus as a content creator to be really making things that are gonna, get in the way of people's focus of what's really important. So that's why I haven't really been producing a lot of stuff in the same fashion and motivation I was doing before, mainly because it's not as important. So, but we'll be back to somewhat of a regular posting schedule kind of soon. I'm working on content behind the scenes, obviously, that I haven't been sharing, but that's just trying to get everything all figured out. So this isn't perfectly straight, so that's why that's happening. Or you just use the freehand tool, I think, the whole time. Just be a lot easier. I always feel like the royalty-free music is always weird pop songs that you'll never hear. I feel so bad for those artists. I'm like, why? Like, you definitely put a lot of work into this. It's fairly well produced. If anyone else knows of other good royalty-free music sources that I can play on YouTube, definitely feel free to let me know in the comment section. I also have a subscription with Artlist, which I recently got for doing some higher quality videos. That's something I've been kind of looking at, but I haven't really explored in there too much other than doing little fast Procreate time-lapse edits at what their music library is really like for different things. It's got some good songs for sure, but it's still like not 100%. Wish I wasn't paying for it, but it was an expense, and I've just been taking anything I've been making lately from creative endeavors, other than like the charity we've done recently. All that stuff has just been going back into reinvesting in the channel. So everything else I've been making lately, from anything that's a creative endeavor, even like my regular graphic design and illustration business, I've just been pumping into the channel, just trying to help it grow and do things like that. So it's getting slightly better, I think. So it's not the worst, it's not the best, but there's definitely a noticeable difference in production quality has definitely gone up. Also, anyone that's been following me on Instagram, I actually posted in my story one of the first photos I've taken with the new camera. I'm not much of a photographer, but I've always really been interested in it, and I wanted to pursue it, but it was really hard to get into just because the process of obtaining a camera that gives you a decent result was really not doable for me at the time. It wasn't something I could obtain. It was too expensive. So I actually have put it off for a long time, even though I've always been really fascinated with it. And I have a lot of friends that are phenomenal photographers, so I always just felt kind of weird, like trying to get into the space. I've always just been like the illustrator and graphic designer. But picked one up to help with the YouTube videos and actually have a professional camera to shoot with. And it's a great camera, it's good quality, but it also doubles as a good option to better learn photography. So I'm excited about that. I will probably not be posting a lot of my photography stuff. I think I'm just going to keep it as like a personal thing for things that I like to do. But it has really good options on there for like what you can make as far as like the quality of shots and stuff go. So if you guys want to check out that photo, it's up right now on today's date. If you're watching this in the future, sorry you missed it. Actually, I think this freehand technique is working better, so I might just stick with that. Definitely getting much better results. Looks a lot cleaner for this purpose. And when this gets into Illustrator, I move really quickly in Illustrator. So if you guys have questions, to my 0 people watching right now, please ask them, because I don't realize it, that what I'm doing might be confusing to understand if you're new to Illustrator. I'm just really used to working incredibly fast in the program, so I might not think of something that would be helpful for you guys. I'd probably just keep going and not realize that there's an important thing I'm doing that you might not understand yet if you're new to the program. And then after we're done with this and I send it directly to my computer, I actually have the windows ready for Photoshop and Illustrator. We're going to drop this directly into Illustrator, and then from there I'll actually be able to do a bunch of other interesting things, like finalize the lettering, keep the forms where they need to be. I'm just going to check something really quickly. I'm going to open a new tab here so we have just a way to share what I'm working on right now, just because people might be a little curious. All right. We got this link copied. We're going to post this on a few of the other social media platforms I'm on, just so people can see that I'm live. That's one thing I don't do enough. There's not really like a good way to send out to everyone at the same time. So I'm just doing that really quick. I'm just sharing on all of my social media that I'm on. Pretty much just Facebook, Twitter, which I never use. No one follows me on Twitter, but I have it. All right, back to the drawing. So let's zoom out real quick. It looks like we actually have our first viewer, so welcome. Basically what I'm working on right now is that creature graphic I started the other day. There was some issues with the film quality of what I was working on. Stop. The protests were getting really loud as well, so I decided to kind of go show support in that instead of streaming, and film what was going on in my neighborhood, because it definitely was weird. It wasn't what I was expecting for this neighborhood, but it was great to see people out showing support. But yeah, what we're doing today is we're going to finish this entire graphic. I have a sketch here, so if you haven't seen that yet, I will reactivate it in just a second, just so you guys can see it. Just joining the stream. But basically, I had started this sketch the other day and finished it off stream. I've been doing that a lot lately just because it's easier for me to work. So we'll turn this off. And basically what I had started was this series of graphics here. Let's see. And sorry about the music as well. This is just like royalty-free music off of Spotify. All right, so that was the graphic that I had sketched out, but it was really simple and kind of sloppy because it's a sketch. It's not meant to be a finalized thing. So we'll keep going from there. And all I'm doing now is I'm just creating like a solid layer because this has too much texture. So if you actually zoom in really close, you can see it's all pencil texture because I was sketching and not inking. So I'm just doing a finalized version. I could take this directly into Photoshop and do it that way, but this is going to be a little bit easier for me in the long run to do it in this step in process. So that's why I'm doing it like this. I'm just using a combination of different tools. Turn off the yellow too on this just because it's a little hard to see. We're going to turn off this whole group actually. We're just turning off the yellow so I can see a little bit better with the green. Still got some wobbliness to it. I'm going to stick with the freehand selection tool. I'm actually having some good luck with that, so we'll stick with that. It's a little bit easier. Doesn't really have the ability to have as much shake in it, and there's no pressure sensitivity, so it's not going to be deforming and blowing out. And this is just a rough guide, so what I'm doing after this will make a lot more sense. Still not quite there yet. I'm just kind of rounding out the corners a little bit. I'm not going to get super focused because when I bring this in the Illustrator, those little bumps and stuff aren't going to matter. They're going to add to the graphic with the live trace feature that we're going to use. Now, I might have to do some structural redesign on this in Illustrator as well if it's not really doing what I need it to do. There's a way that you can actually use the live trace and then manipulate the anchor points, or you can create a singular shape. Now, if you were designing a font in Illustrator, it'd obviously be a lot easier than what I'm doing right now, but because we started in Procreate, I'm going to finish showing you how you would do it if you're not as familiar with these tools. So I could actually just bring this in and start tracing over it right now, but it wouldn't live trace really well. So that's why I'm kind of just testing things out. just trying to make sure everything's filled in. You want to get it as solid as you possibly can. There's going to be obviously some areas that aren't super perfect. That's fine too. You just want to get it as close as possible to being exactly how you want the shape and form to be if you plan to use live trace. Now, if I were to properly build this out and make it an actual font, I would not be doing this process at all. I'd be using different programs. I could start in Illustrator, but then I'd have to actually bring it into another program, adjust a few other small key details. And I'm just getting into making professional fonts. I love typography, and I always am looking for a very specific font. And I figured, you know, if I'm not going to find what I want out there and I'm comfortable enough drawing my own fonts or making my own fonts right now in Illustrator, I should just make fonts for other people, because I'm sure I might make something and someone might be looking for something really similar in style. And so that's something that's on the horizon, some font creation. Do a lot of lettering, so I think it's about time to just start making some fonts and some Procreate brushes and stuff like that. I'm thinking too, maybe that's something I could add to Patreon as like a monthly thing. Like, here's a new font this month, or a I don't know, something like that. New font that's for personal use or something. All right, cool. We're moving along pretty fast, actually. And I'm just gonna do all like the straightaways really quickly, just because it's easier to work that way. Then you can go back in with a brush afterwards if you want to fine tune things, or you can do the reverse and use the selection tool, whatever works. I go back and forth between the two. Just depends on what seems to be working. Sometimes the brush seems like a better option. Sometimes the just general selection is a better option for me. Definitely a lot nicer to have some music, even if it's not the best, than working in pure silence like I have been doing. So I'll continue to look for royalty-free music that I can put onto a playlist on Spotify, or just keep using the ones that they currently have up. There's a bunch of them, so I'm sure I could always change it up. It's like a couple of hundred songs on each one, so shouldn't be too bad. All right, moving along. This music is so bad. All right, not too bad. The top of the E is a little wonky, but figured that was going to happen, so we'll just leave it as is. So one of the cool features in Procreate is they have this arc tool. You can actually use it to make really clean lines if you're doing typography stuff. So I actually like that a lot. It's one of the features in here. It's kind of nice. And that's actually something that you would utilize in a program like Adobe Illustrator. So it has a bit of familiarity to it and as far as process goes. And I'm not really sculpting these letters to be perfect. I'm just making sure I have all the necessary information I'm going to need for when I do a live trace and making sure that it's not terrible. But a lot of this will actually add to the aesthetic look that I'm going for, having sort of a rough, unprofessional looking font. Something that looks handmade, looks old. That's the goal. And I am moving pretty quickly. I just always do that. It's just how I work when it comes to stuff like this. All right. It's pretty good. Now, when you're making an actual font, you wouldn't really do this process at all. This is not how it's done. It's just a little bit easier. So at least in Procreate. But what you would actually use, you would use like a vector-based program like Adobe Illustrator or something like that if you're going to make a real font. Another tool that would be really good for this is a flexible ruler. So I showed you guys the other day how you can use regular drawing stencil templates to actually create really nice circles and things like that. I could use that right now too if I wanted to, but I really just don't think it's that important for what I'm doing right now. But if you wanted to get it an exact curve and duplicate it a couple times, that's actually a great way to go about it, is using a flexible ruler. Once you have the curve kind of figured out, it's a really handy tool for stuff like this, even with just traditional drawing in general when it comes to weird curves and forms. Okay, so now I just got a couple of these corners that I got to round out with a brush, and that shouldn't be too bad. Alright, not bad. So this T will go pretty fast. A lot of straight lines here, less curves. Okay, first hour in. All right, so almost ready to actually start exporting this. Once this is all set, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, put this on like in a duplicate file. Then we're going to export that directly into Illustrator. So I use Mac for pretty much all of my Yeah, I'm a Mac user now. I used to be a PC guy. I'm a Mac guy now. But basically, one of the things that you have in there is the AirDrop, which is a really great feature. So I can actually just directly send this to my computer and to my workstation, and then I don't have to really worry too much about it. So it's kind of nice. So I'll actually save it to a Dropbox file, and I'll open that Dropbox file on my computer. There's a few ways I can go about it. So that's one of the conveniences of using Apple stuff. It's just really fast and intuitive. So I've never actually live streamed doing anything in Forest. I don't know what to expect. It's either going to work really well or it's just not going to work at all. We'll find out together. I know people do it, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It shouldn't be that difficult to figure out, but it's my first time doing it. I did test the screens before I started to make sure that they would work, and it does appear that they would work. I just don't know if I need to do anything else. right, there it is. Okay, so we have the basic sketch now outlined and ready to go into Illustrator. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to merge some layers really quickly. And this is going to be working destructively, so I want to be a little bit more cautious of my plan here. So I'm going to merge this down. We have these lines here. We're going to bring these up outside of here. And we're going to actually take everything else and just delete it. Okay, so when we delete this, hit delete. You know what? Actually, let's not do that. I have an idea, actually. Okay, so all I'm going to do actually is I'm going to back out this gallery. We'll duplicate this, hitting duplicate, and that's where we'll do all of our major edits. I'm getting tired. Alright, so on this new one here, we'll actually just delete everything like I was about to do. Bring this up. Come on. Alright, merge those. This music is so bad. Alright, so we'll delete all those layers. Didn't work again. Oh my god, I'm having a bad day. Alright. Delete. Alright, so what we're left with is this singular layer and graphic here. As you can see on the bottom, there's a bit of that weird signature still. So I'm just going to go in with the eraser really quickly and just clean up a few things I didn't see before. So just down here, there's an old signature that I had on an old layer. I'm going to look at everything really quick, and everything looks pretty good. I'm going to actually duplicate the little veiny layers, I think. Yeah, there we go. Before I merge those, let's actually let's go back and think about one of the other design things we could do. So what we could do is we can actually we'll keep it. That's fine. We don't actually need to worry about that. All right, here we go. So we'll move this up. Okay, so now we have the two separate layers. We have the font, and we have these little details in here. Now I doubled up these. I'm going to do it. Let's do 3 of them actually. So now they're nice and solid. There's no pencil grain left. It was already in black, so I don't have to worry about trying to do anything with that. And it gives us a nice textured look. And our letters actually look a little too streamlined. That's okay. We're going to fix that in a little bit. So now that we have everything that we need to get into Photoshop or Illustrator. We're going to do Illustrator first, and then we're going to actually mess around with a couple of the details in here just to kind of make them work the way I need them to. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. So to do that, we're actually going to export this. So if you click on the little wrench here, you can go to Share. Actually, you know what? Let's go to Gallery, because if I share this, there we go. Yeah, we can do that. We'll do a share. We're going to do a Photoshop document. It doesn't export into any vector-based formats. Okay, so we'll do Alright, that's actually, I don't want to do that. Alright, so exporting was successful. Yeah. So exporting was good. We're going to actually turn on the Illustrator view. We're going to turn off Procreate. So Illustrator is just closed at the moment. So let me just get that open really quickly with a file. Just going to take a second there. So we got Illustrator. We're going to minimize that for a second. And I just got to get some recent files. So let me just find it very quickly. And then we will actually, we're going to get out of this completely. We're going to get out of Procreate. So let me just make sure everything's going right. It's going to take just a second. Sorry, I'm working with one screen. This is a little difficult. All right, we're going to turn off the iPad view. So I have Illustrator, and I'm just going to disconnect my screen, connect here, just because there's no reason to keep it going. See if this will go a little bit faster. All right. All right. So we have Illustrator now. It's just opening up. It's looking for files. Yeah, so I'm just looking for what was recently on here. Sometimes it doesn't save the file to the right spot. And it didn't do it here. So I just gotta find it really quickly. Just give me a second. Alright. So if I hit my... Sometimes this doesn't work, sometimes it does. Alright, so now we have it. So just gonna click on it. There it is. So we have the file here. We're gonna open with Adobe Illustrator. Now, because we opened it as a Photoshop document, it should technically just open as is. But let's just double check. Open with Adobe Illustrator. We're gonna convert the layers to objects. And what that's gonna do is that's basically going to give us a nice working style, or not working style, but like way to work where we have layers already built in. So I'm going to just turn on another monitor, not a monitor, but my Cintiq, and I'm going to try to use that as a second viewing monitor, just so it's easier. All right, let's turn that off real quick. And just waiting for the Cintiq to pick up. There's a lot of different things going on, so it's hard for it to read. Okay. Yeah, it's not catching the signal, so that means something's unplugged. Unfortunately, I have to figure out what it is. Give me just a second. Okay, so now it should be working. All right, so I'm gonna just move one screen over and just up the brightness a little bit, and we should be good to go. Okay, sorry about that. So all I'm doing is I'm just moving my screen over and just checking a few different settings real quick. So now I have the screen all set here. And we're just going to do a few things really quick just to kind of control the display. settings. Color's a little insane on that right now. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to actually start using Illustrator. For those of you who are not familiar with Adobe Illustrator, it is a vector-based program. And what a vector is, it's a coordinate-based point system sort of way to view all your different like images and whatnot. Now, 1 second. The color space is just looking all sorts of crazy right now. There we go. Okay, so we have everything all set here. So I can see it, everything on the other screen. Now we have Illustrator. I'm going to actually just expand Illustrator very quick. It's just shrunk down at the moment. See if this helps. Okay, so this is the the interface for Illustrator, and this is the one that I typically use. This is how I have it set up. Some people will have it set up where they have things collapse like this. I personally can't stand the look of that, so I'm not going to worry about that. I do have, however, a couple other things that are closed at the moment for some reason, so I'm going to get those back up under Windows. And we're going to grab the layers. Now we can actually see all the individual layers. So we can turn this gray off if we wanted, we can turn off these, and we can turn off the font itself. So they're all separate, and they can kind of see all that on there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go in here and live trace each thing, but I'm going to duplicate it first. So select both, we'll do a right click, or we'll just bring down the plus sign actually, we'll do it that way. Then we have these two which will lock, and these two will be a live trace letters. It's always good to label your layers somewhat so you know what you're doing. Just call these strings for right now. Let's grab our selection tool. We're going to select our layer. So we have everything selected here. Looks like there's still some artifacts down there. That's fine. We're going to image trace. Image is now traced. We're going to hit expand. We're going to go and grab the direct selection arrow. We're going to go to select similar or same, fill color. We'll delete it. And now what we're left with are just these shapes and objects right here. You can see there's some breaks in there and some disconnections. We're going to fix that in a little bit. Not too bad. We could probably do a couple of adjustments on there. We're going to grab the letters next. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to grab the V tool. We're going to select the corner, and we're going to hit image trace. It's going to do its best job to kind of recreate the lettering. We'll hit expand once again. Then we'll select A. And what that'll do, bring up the direct selection, and we can just select all these areas. We don't need to get super precise. All right, we'll hit delete. We'll hit V, and we'll see all the paths we have on here. So there's a lot of stray anchor points that are showing up. And what that means is there's a lot of weird artifacts. And that's fine. That does happen. These are just the curves, which you can manipulate and give you different results and shapes. But we're going to actually reduce some of these anchor points, so we're going to simplify so it's a little bit easier for us to work with. So we go to Object, Path, Simplify, and we can actually see how it's going to simplify the object by adjusting here. So if we reduce the amount of anchor points, it'll start to smooth some of these out. But you want to be careful. If you do it too much, there's a good chance that you'll actually end up distorting the letter so much that it's not legible. So you might want to avoid that. You can also add anchor points back if you need to. So we're going to bring it up just a little bit because the C is losing some detail. Just get one more. Same with A. So that doesn't look terrible. That looks fine. All right, now when we zoom back in, we're going to see there's a lot of weird areas that have sort of broken up and they don't look as clean. Now I could spend hours and hours just adjusting this. We're going to just do this kind of quickly so you guys can kind of see the process. But normally what I would do is that I'd actually go in and redo all of this and make it proper and spend the time. But this is just a quick little video to kind of show you some of the process. It is very time consuming. If you want to get into doing graphic production like this and you want to do it right and make sure everything looks good, it takes a lot more time than people realize. So you can line up that curve there. Now I have the Cintiq. I can actually take a brush here, this blob brush, and I can make a new layer if I wanted to. Let's just try it right here, actually. Now I'm just using my mouse. I'm not using the Cintiq right now, but if I were to grab my Cintiq, I could actually draw with it like a pencil, and it'll actually fill in areas that are missing, and that'll help with like a lot of gaps or areas that are like too pointy. You can add this little round piece here. You can add a little round piece here. Stuff like that. There's also an eraser tool as well. The brushes in Adobe Illustrator don't work necessarily the same as brushes in other programs like Procreate and Photoshop. So there's some limitations there. And we're just doing, like I said, like a really simple, fast edit and fix to anything that looks kind of out of place. There's areas with definite breaks, so we're going to fix those first. And we'll merge these down together, and then we'll actually start distorting this. We'll bring this into Photoshop, and we can do our color overlays that way by keeping this as a smart object. So you can see there's a bunch of broken areas here. I'm just going to grab that blob brush. I'm going to hit one anchor point, and then we're going to hold down Shift. Oh, it doesn't work the same. All right, we're gonna just do it like that. See what we get. So I'll grab the pen tool actually, and I'll do it that way. Just another simple little hack here. And we'll just invert it so it's not a stroke, it's just like a path like that. And then we'll select all of that area, and then we'll merge them together. So then we'll go into the path finder tool here. That's what the shape model will do. And the texture actually looks kind of nice. I like it so far. This one was looking a little confusing, so I'm going to grab the cut tool. And basically what the cut tool does, it'll cut different anchor points out, and you can then erase them. Sorry, knife tool. Alright, so with the knife tool, it's not working either. Interesting. Alright. So we'll stick with the eraser tool then. So the eraser tool, that's what it is, it's an eraser. And I got it shrunk down pretty good. And I'm just kind of cleaning up some of these areas a little bit. We're keeping it pretty rough because that's the look that we were going for. And when we actually bring this into Photoshop, there's a few actions I might add to it as a shape. Now the C is a little thin than it should be. So we're going to actually fatten that up a little bit. We're going to look at some of these other letter forms. The T is a little too close to the A, or the U is a little far away. So there's two things we can do here. We can actually take this section here. We'll zoom in so we can see it. And I'm going to grab this section of this here. We're going to actually just move it out of the way really quick so it's just not in the way while we're editing. We're going to do the same thing. Actually, no, we'll move a couple of these just so they're out of the way. We're going to move all of these letters a few at a time. So all these forms here, they're all pretty much connected, right? So what we can do is we can actually just hold the Shift key and the direct selection arrow, and we can grab all these segments that aren't connected by paths. including these ones up here. And then we can make a group, you know? So we we'll bring them up. There's another line to fix here, which I haven't fixed yet, but that's fine. We'll just grab that. And I'll just grab enough information to know where this line is supposed to end and stop and start and all that. So I don't need to grab all this stuff. I'm going to recreate it anyway. So that looks pretty good. Got pretty much everything. Oh, this is the last one here. So I'll just grab that really fast. All right, we got those. We're going to actually group those together as a shape, and now they're separate. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I like where this is. I'm not going to try to fetch it back, so we'll just we'll take our direct selection arrow tool again, and we're just going to select everything that's inside where the U is, and we're going to merge that together. We're going to hold this, and then we're going to just shift it over. We're going to hold the shift key. We're just going to move this over just a little bit. We're going to take the T as well, so we'll grab the direct selection arrow tool again. We'll grab the T, then hit V. We're going to bring it up just a little bit, right there. And then we'll grab this section here. And we can actually just grab specific anchor points by selecting them. But we're going to do this a little differently. We'll just grab it like this. It's a little bit easier to work with. And we'll grab a corner. We'll bring it up. It's distorted. That's fine. It's not actually affecting how this overall looks, so that's okay. And we'll just double check to make sure we're not off any other letters. Okay, still looks pretty good, pretty legible. Now this looks a little bit coarser than some of these other lines, and that's something that we can fix afterwards, so I'll show you guys how I plan to do that. Okay. So we have all these elements here that we grabbed and we put in a group. So now when we select it with the red arrow, sorry, not red arrow, the black arrow. So I actually just copied it in place and then deleted it, or selected, copied, deleted, and then pasted it in place. And what that does is actually helps us move all this stuff over. So we can actually, we can kind of distort it to fit what we need it to fit. And now it's on a separate, it's no longer the same thing. We're just going to mess around with some of these layers and whatnot until they're where we want them to be. It looks pretty good so far. And then, that's not bad actually. I think it looks pretty good. I think that's looking okay. Now we're going to go and we're going to clean up some stuff. So there's some artifacts left over from before, and there's some things that I don't really like. So we're going to just adjust those. What you can do is you can actually double click on something. It will isolate that one item in Illustrator. So you can actually just have all the things that are part of that group, and you can manipulate just one of them. So that's a nice little pro tip for anyone that's new to Illustrator and you're getting frustrated with it. It can be frustrating if you don't know all these little shortcuts, but once you figure all the shortcuts out, it's the greatest thing and the greatest program you've ever used. So now we have all of them in a decent spot. Now we can also do other things like warps and things like that, and manipulate this file numerous ways to really get the look we're going for. It's kind of messy, so that's okay. That fits the look, but if you needed to, you could easily adjust it and do different things. So now we have individual anchor points that we can select. By holding shift, we can select multiple by just clicking directly on the anchor point. Or you can grab the arrow tool and do like a click and drag. But it's not the most precise, so if you're looking for precision, it might not work for you. And we'll just use these down tabs. And select a few more of these, and we'll just actually bring this down a bit. I missed this anchor point up here, so we'll just drag those in. Or I could just delete them, because they're not going to be seen. But yeah, so that's kind of how you do that. And then this area here, you see that we have all these weird breaks in here, artifacts like we talked about. I'm actually just going to take this one anchor point and just drag it across. Seems to get the job done for me and the look I'm going for. Then you can select all of these and just group them together, just merge them like I did before. And this up here I actually really like the detailing of, so I want to bring this back. I think I'm losing some of the cool detailing here, so I'll grab the white arrow tool, the direct selection arrow. We'll grab those anchor points, and we're just going to bring them back just a bit. So it doesn't look exactly perfect. Let's try a few other things really quick that we can do. I don't want to move everything, I just want to move a couple things. So we're going to grab as much detail as we can without really messing it up too much. So hold the shift down. We're just going to grab all the information that's going to be important to this specific thing. So as we move it, we can see that there's anchor points that were missed that aren't moving, so we're going to grab those. That doesn't look terrible. We're still not done yet. We're just fixing a few things. So that's a little too wide in some areas. We'll just grab those anchor points and we'll bring it back in. It's not that big a deal. There we go. Looks pretty good. And we have these down here. These are easy fixes. So this is... And anyone that's advanced in these programs and is mad about how I'm not, really going in depth, there's just not enough time to really explain every step. And like, you might already know this stuff, but if anyone's asking questions in the future, it's pretty easy. If people really want me to do like a full-length tutorial on how I use these programs, I might. It's just I don't really see a point to right now. All this stuff is, through multiple tutorials and things that I've learned over the years, so it's nothing that you can't learn. It's just you gotta put the time in to learn it. So that's the big thing. Like, a lot of people don't want to put in time, and I get it. It's like you want to know exactly how, but it's not that difficult to learn if you're already like a fairly design savvy person. Learning these programs is just another tool. And once you figure them out, that's when you really can make some really amazing stuff. I know there's a lot of people that don't have access to Photoshop to learn it. I didn't growing up for a long time, and then eventually got access to it and learned everything I could as quickly as possible, basically while I had free trials. So many fake emails to learn this program. At this point, this just kind of becomes personal preference of things that you like, or if you don't like certain details, there's different ways around adding more depth to them. Now, all these areas have been looking kind of thin, and I'm not really quite done editing yet, so I didn't want to do this just yet, but I'll show you anyway on just this as an example. We're going to add a stroke to the outside. We're going to use the same exact color. We're going to go with black. So we'll select black here as the stroke. Okay. Now we're working with like pure blacks in Illustrator right now, so those are a little bit different. We have this selected. We're going to hit expand. Trying to remember everything is. I haven't used Illustrator in a little while. Object transform. There it is. Object expand. We're going to do fill and stroke. We're going to merge these together. And now you can see that it's actually a little bit thicker and matches the other lines that are already down here. And just making these anchor points kind of match with the rest of it. And you can delete anchor points. To do that, you can hit the minus key on your keyboard, and that will bring up the remove anchor point pen tool. Alright, what else we gotta move? I'm looking. There's still quite a bit actually we can remove and adjust. Just doing Control Z. I'll merge these really fast actually while I'm still editing. Now, I could get way more precise with this, but again, like I said, we're going to be adding a bunch of distorting effects intentionally. So the messier this is, it'll aid in the design, but that's not the case for every design that you do. It's just that this one in particular is meant to look very messy and sloppy and have a lot of textures and grain to it. So that's intentional. And one of the other things that's annoying in Illustrator when you select black as a stroke for the first time, sometimes it doesn't always recognize that if that's what you're trying to do. It thinks that you want to do the reverse of the default black and white. All right, not bad. So it looks pretty good. We've upped that a little bit. We're gonna actually remove some anchors on here just to get rid of this thing. So I don't think it's helping anymore. So that's a handle. There we go. I want to have some more of that weird, like almost slimy, just gripping on look on some of these areas. Now we have these extra details as well that we duplicated from before that we can manipulate to do other things as well if we need to, but we're just going to keep it really simple, I think, right now, to make sure we can kind of get this moving along. Gonna add that stroke effect. All this like royalty-free music is just so sad and such a downer.
Forward on we go, facing friend and foe. We will know what it is. We have not time for that. If we make mistakes, we are lost.
All right, everything we need here.
We stand together, united as one. Forward on we go, facing friend and foe. We will know what it is. We have not time for that. If we make mistakes, we are lost. We are lost. We are lost. We are lost. We stand together, united as one. Forward on we go, facing friend and foe. We will know what it is. We have not time for that. If we make mistakes, we are lost.
All right, so I'm looking at it right now. It looks pretty good. Looks like we cleaned up most of the damage. I don't know why I started tweaking out about this corner because I gotta move the R and E over right now. So I'm gonna do that really quickly. We're gonna go back to the main area right here. So we're just gonna make sure that we're back onto all of the main layers. You grab the R and the E. We're just going to zoom in and make sure we have all the other pieces as well. If the whole detail, I think these look fine where they are. So we're going to just keep them where they are. And we're just going to get the main detailed pieces and make sure we have those selected. And I have to zoom in a lot, in and out, just to see what I'm doing. So I'm sorry that's what you guys are looking at on screen. It's just like a lot of back and forth, but that's just the easiest way for me to do it. So we're going to move these so they look a little bit better. And they look like they're actually a part of the word and there's not a space there. Using the shift tool again. All right. We have this layer here, or this piece. We're going to zoom in really quick. And we're just going to grab this piece again. And we're going to just grab this section and just pull it in all tight. Okay, we'll just go back to the original layer again. Now we're going to delete some of these artifacts that are just random floating pieces that I don't want in the design. And that'll happen. You'll get a few of those just as you're editing. You'll kind of see where they are and you can kind of make decisions about what you want to do with them. For me, I think I don't want the noise in there, personally. So I'm just selecting them as I see them, erasing them. You can get a little bit more precise with this as well. We're just doing this kind of quick. Because these are little separate pieces, I can just delete them, which is nice. I haven't merged them all together, so I don't have to do as much cleanup. And I know a lot of fast shortcut keys, so don't be intimidated if you're new to using a program like Adobe Illustrator or anything like that. Eventually, you'll learn to use a lot of these shortcut keys. And I think there might be a way in the future I might be able to actually have it show the keys I'm using so you guys can kind of see and learn, but I haven't figured that out yet. I bet there's a way. I know I've seen it in other videos where people use some sort of like thing to capture the keys that they're entering. All right, so we got all those little fragments. There's a few up here. There's a couple of other connections I want to fix as well that I'm going to thicken up, and then we'll just look at the overall piece and what we think of the composition. And like I said, you can spend way more time on this stuff. This doesn't have to be the only like the only thing that you're working on. Not working on, but worried about. Like if I wanted to really submit this as a finalized graphic, I would take way more time with this, and I'd even approach it a little bit differently. And it's important to make sure that you're merging the things that you want merged as soon as you think of it, because if you move on with these small details, you're probably going to forget, or you're not going to notice it. Now, when I'm done with this, I'm actually going to end up merging almost all of it. So just cleaning up these little details is just the first stages of that, making sure there's no stray little marks that are going to look weird. And then any of these lines that aren't connecting to something, we want to make sure they are, because otherwise they don't really make sense in this style of graphic. So that's all I'm doing right there. Any weird holes that you have that don't look aesthetic, like the aesthetic that you're going for, you want to get rid of that. And see how that gets rid of everything once I merge it. There's no issue there. And we're keeping this super textured, so that's intentional. That's why it looks like that. This U, I don't like how some of these are going, so I'm going to actually zoom in here real quick and just see if we can do some little fast edits. Yeah, didn't like how that was going, so we're going to bring that over. Just bring that in. That's okay, that looks fine with that. Alright, so that all looks pretty good. I think I need to start fattening up some of these and just fix some stuff near this T really fast. Just grabbing some stuff to do a couple fast fixes, and I actually end up liking how that looks, so we're gonna scrap it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Still not quite thick enough in my opinion, so we're gonna start thickening up the rest of these areas, and we're gonna fix the C really quick as well before I forget. So the C is not as thick in this column as it should be, so we're gonna select it, and then we're gonna start adjusting anchor points to give it the look we want. So we'll take our direct selection, we'll grab this anchor point here, this one here, and this one, because these are fairly crucial. And we'll just start shifting it over to try to match. We'll grab the bottom one by itself, and we'll bring that in as well. That gives us a bit more consistency, and it looks a little bit nicer, a lot cleaner. Not too bad. Pretty happy with that. All right, we're gonna grab this. We're gonna bring this up and just fix it. Looks pretty good. And this is the part that gets a little tricky. So we have all these. We're going to select it with the direct select arrow tool. We're going to just select all the ones we want to thicken up. And we're going to deselect some of them. These are thick enough over here. And it's fine if these are a little tapered down. I think that looks fine. So we'll hold shift again, and then we'll hit the direct selection to unselect some of them. And we have some other things I want to just fix really quick actually while I'm looking at it. So let's just do that first. It gets tricky when you have a graphic like this and there's all these small detailed parts that are not really lining up. You can run into some stuff like this where you're like, oh, it's not quite right. Alright. Looks pretty good so far. These are my main focus areas that I want to thicken up. This part over here as well. So we'll add a stroke. Make sure we have it set to black to match. Hit OK. And we're going to up the stroke to 2. Really get the, maybe even 3. Let's try 3. We'll unselect it. 3 looks a little strong. Let's go back to 2. 2 looks a bit more consistent. There's some areas that look like they need more. Some that look like they need less. So this section here looks like it actually needs a little less. We're going to keep that down to a 1. And we'll just keep grabbing other sections here. We're going to bring this up to a 3. I think they need it. And then there's the smaller sections over here with the U. Looks like that's actually on another layer. So we're going to go in and we're going to grab those isolations. And we're going to just up the add a stroke to that as well. So it looks like they're not the same color. They're not consistent anymore. So we're going to swap this over. And I'll show you guys how to fix that right now. Looks okay. We're going to bring that stroke level up to a 2 to start. Looks pretty good. Let's try 3 actually, just to see. I think that might be... Yeah, that looks a lot better. I think it's still a little much. 2's the right spot. This one's still not quite there yet, so let's get that one. Yeah, we'll grab this isolation, and we're gonna bring the stroke up on this one to a 2. Now that I'm looking at it, and we'll just go back to our main form here. The C is looking a little light on this isolation, so let's go back in. We'll grab this isolation and this one. We're actually going to go up to a, we're going to go to 3.5 on the stroke. I don't want it to be too thick. That doesn't seem too bad. Let's try 4. Okay, that looks a little bit more uniform. It's really just kind of balancing it out. I mean, these graphics don't need to be perfect, but it is nice to have some consistency. Up this to 3 on this one, so there's a bit more uniform. All right, that's good. Oh, sorry, just looking at the chat now. Just got on. Sorry, 1 second. I'm not sure if it captured the first part of the thing that you said. Oh, there is. Okay, so there is the thing that you can use to like capture the keyboard. So yeah, I want to like look into that and try to see what's going on. Yo, what's up, man? Welcome. All right, so yeah, I've been going, been streaming about almost just about 2 hours now. So like got a bunch of the stuff from Procreate, and I'm just fixing a few like final details, and we're gonna actually go through the process of how I take this graphic and how I'm gonna bring it into Photoshop and do all the tweaks that I need to kind of present the graphic of how I would go about putting it on a board with a mock-up and all that. So this is actually, you guys missed all the boring stuff. We're on to the fun stuff now. So this looks pretty good. There's a couple artifacts. Let me just double check really quick. Not bad, man. It's going pretty good. How are you doing? So we'll delete those stray points. And we're going to merge this all together, and then we're actually going to go back in. We're going to reduce some of the paths on here. So we have everything here now. These are separate pieces. We're pretty happy with it. We're going to work a little destructively because I do have copies of these layers. So we're going to select both layers as well. We're going to go back in. We're going to merge them right now. So we'll merge these. Now they're all on one layer. We can remove this old layer. We'll delete it. Now we're left with this one. I'm going to actually change the color of this layer by double clicking. We're going to make this a recognizable color. We're going to make this like a cyan so I can see it. And now we're going to go back in, and everything looks pretty good so far. We're just going to make sure that there's no other weird artifacts. Let's see. So now that we have everything, we're going to click on it. Now this selects everything because all the paths are linked together. We're going to hit Command Copy. We're going to hit Delete. Then we're going to go back over, and we're going to see all those little anchor points. Those are strays that were hidden inside there. We're going to hit Delete, and then we'll hit Command Shift V, and that will paste the art back in place, and that gets you everything that you need and gets rid of all the weird stray anchor points that you might not see that'll affect your files later on in production. So that looks pretty good. This still looks a little too thick, so if we were to go back, I could actually grab different selections and add a stroke. We're going to add a stroke around this entire artwork though, just to see how it looks. That's just like an aesthetic choice that I'm choosing to do. Okay, we'll up it to like a 7. Let's just see how it looks. Way too much. All right, so we're gonna do, let's do like a 2 or 3. Let's try a 3. Just not legible. Maybe the stroke's just not worth it. We'll just get rid of the stroke, and we'll just keep it as is. I think it's okay. It's okay that there's still a little bit of heaviness in the central mass area, and it's not quite how I want it yet. So we're going to go back actually a couple steps before this is all completely merged. We're going to go back on these isolations. We're going to really beef up some of these because we lost some of the detail when they merged down. That's because they weren't expanded. So I forgot to expand all the things that were on a stroke. So go to an object, expand, fill in stroke, join those paths together, delete that. Now we have something that looks a little bit more legible. Do the same thing we did before with that copy and paste. Yeah, thanks for joining the stream, man. Appreciate it. Have a good night. And I'm glad you're doing good. All right, there it is. So we now have the graphic in isolation. Now if I try to add the stroke, this might help a little bit. We'll do a colored one just so we can see it, how it looks. And we'll just change the stroke to be on the outside, not in the middle. And we'll up it to like let's try 3. And now we can back out. So that gives us like a little bit more visual interest if we're trying to like figure out how we want it to go and how we want it to look. Not terrible. Not super happy with it either. So let's bring the stroke down to like a 1 on here. All right, got that down to a 1. And that looks pretty good. I actually don't mind that at all. So we'll grab the selection, let's grab black, and we'll just check it out, see what we think of it. Okay, so that actually still kind of looks a little messy to me. I think we'll be fine without the stroke. We'll just grab it without. All right, so now we have everything. There's two ways I could bring this into Photoshop. I could either open Photoshop, pull it in directly, and try to import it like a smart object, or you can select the entire thing, hit Command C if you're on a Mac, or Control C, I think. Windows key. I already forgot what the Windows key is. You want to copy it, right? So you can even right click, copy, and all that. Or no, you can't, not Photoshop. But you want to copy it. So once you have it copied, we're going to actually open up the next window, which is going to be Photoshop. So we have Photoshop right here. Let me just pull open the window so you guys can see it. Turn that correct window on, and now we have Photoshop open. So this is a skateboard template. I do not remember the exact website I got this. But this was off of Creative. Sorry, was off of Creative Market. I don't remember the name of the vendor. So sorry about that. But these are everywhere. Oh, sorry. Is the music too loud? All right, 1 second. Let me just adjust some stuff really quick. So let me just up the volume on here. We're gonna up the mic gain. Okay, is that a little bit better? Okay. So I just adjusted the volume. If that's let me know if that's improving at all. Just trying to make sure that it doesn't peak. I don't want the audio to peak too high. Hello? Okay, so now should be like a decent peak on there. Okay, so now that we have Photoshop open, sick. All right. Yeah, I was trying to put some music on as well. Just found like some royalty-free, license-free music on Spotify. They have like a couple playlists, but I will be figuring out a way to have it in the background in the future. But let's get into it. So this is a pre-made Photoshop template. You can get a bunch of these like all over the internet. I use Creative Market pretty much to get most of the digital assets like this, just to kind of save a lot of time. You don't need anything like this. You can make your own. You can do all sorts of things like that. So we're going to click on the design, and this is actually a smart layer. So we're actually going to bring that up here. We're going to hide it. We're going to start with a wood grain and just mess around. You guys can still hear the music too? Okay, cool. I have the headphones on, so they're like noise canceling. The music's coming from an alternate source, not directly through the files yet. All right. So we'll hit Command V. We're going to paste this as a smart object to start, and I'll show you why in a second. So now we have this. This is technically still a vector, and we can actually double click on this, and it'll bring us back into Illustrator to fix it. Okay, yeah, let me bump the music up a little bit. Let me know if that's too much. All right, so we have the graphic on here now. We're going to paste this down. It's just going to take a second. It's going to add this vector to our library, which is in Photoshop. It's a really large file, so it could take a second. And I have a couple programs running at the same time, so it's really bogging the machine down. And I'm just waiting for that. I'm just checking with Streamlabs, making sure everything's okay. We're going to close. There's a few things I have that are hogging up a lot of speed. All right, still going. So it might crash. It's a bit too large of a file, it looks like. We're going to save. I'm going to save the Illustrator file out, close Illustrator to see if it gives me a little bit more speed. It's just loading right now. It's not showing you guys as a loading thing on my screen right now in Photoshop. So it's gonna take a second. Come on. A little hectic on here. Wasn't sure how this was gonna go because these programs are really powerful. They take a lot of power to run. Yeah, Photoshop is frozen, so we'll hit stop. Let's see if we can get this to quit out. All right, 1 second, guys. I'm gonna just try to see if I can get this to fix itself. It's just frozen right now. So this will happen occasionally where the files are too big or if you have too many things open. It's a really intense program. It's okay. So I already have the assets saved. Yeah, I have the CC. Just I'm subscribed to it, so like use it for client work, but it still crashes way more honestly than the older versions do. So it's just like I'm like, why am I paying a subscription for something I already had a license to before? There are some features though that I do like in like the new version that I can't believe I lived without before. Alright. Yeah, at least there's music this time. Alright, we're gonna try force quitting Photoshop. It's not even responding right now. So I just gotta figure out why that's happening. Yeah, it's completely frozen on my screen. And it won't let me force quit. Just gonna check really quick to see if there's something else I can do. I think it's like Option Command Escape on Mac, right? There we go. So we're gonna force quit Photoshop really quickly, and we're gonna just grab. I'm just gonna reopen it, and then we'll get back to it. Sorry that it's taking a little while. So relaunch, and then I just gotta reconnect it on the screen. All right. Should be up in just a second. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Let's try turning this off and on. All right. I'm going to actually add. I'm just going to add another streaming source and see if that'll work. There we go. All right, we're back. Just gotta adjust the size of the screen really fast. Sorry. Man, I need like an intern. I just gotta scale the art and the canvas of the board to the screen really fast. All right, sick. Okay, so we should be back now and ready to go. Okay, so now that we're in Photoshop, we're going to try the same process again. The other applications are closed. We're going to go to this first design. We're going to double click on the smart layer here, and then we have our sample design. We're going to make a new layer, or you know what, we'll get rid of this layer because I don't need that. We'll keep the wood grain because I might mess around with some concepts on it. We're going to hit paste again. If it'll let me. Oop, hang on. Alright, I copied the wrong layer, so I gotta grab that layer now from Illustrator, which, don't worry, it's saved on the desktop, so we'll do it the other way because everything's crashing right now. So all we need to do is we need to go to the file that I saved, which is now on the desktop. And let's see if I can find it. Alright, there it is. We'll hit open, and we're just gonna keep this in a bounding box. We'll keep it as a, let's see, let's just figure out the type of image we want it to be. Yeah, that should be fine actually. Okay, so this is gonna have some weird things on there. Put an art box around it and just see how it looks. We're going to keep this in RGB just because we're working on a digital screen so you guys can see it. So this is massive the way that I made this. So when it converts over, the reason it was crashing, this file is over 5 feet long. So that's why it was crashing, is just how it was rendered. Thanks. Yeah, I've been enjoying doing some of the live stream stuff. It's hard to show this sort of process when I do things like skateboard graphics because they're so time consuming, and it's hard for people to kind of like sit there because this whole graphic so far is already like a couple hours in, so it's a little bit easier. So now I'm going to shrink this file down. I'm just going to hold the Option key and drag from the corner. That'll drag it from all 4 sides from the center. We're going to just place it really quick. And now when I zoom in, you can kind of see we have the artwork. We're going to just do a few adjustments. Now, it's a little hard to know how these are going to work and react just because they're not exactly perfect. So a lot of creature skateboard graphics, they're kind of like tilted like this. They kind of expand out to like all the edges and stuff. We're going to bring it down because I like the top of the T a little bit more than the bottom. And we're just going to try to make it fit. This is also using a, I believe, an 8-inch wide graphic where I typically design things for 8 and above. So this artwork is actually probably like closer to what it would look like on something like a 7.5 or something. So what we can do now is just to see how it's placed, we'll hit File, and then we'll hit Save. Or you can do the Command S, and that'll save it. Now if we go back, we can see what the artwork looks like on the template. So now there's like a little bit of a, easier representation of the artwork and how it's going to sit on the board. We're going to add all the effects now to it. So we'll grab this layer again, and we're going to do some clipping mask layers. So we're going to do a gradient really fast. We'll make a new gradient. So we'll go under the paint bucket tool, we'll grab the gradient tool, bring down the drop down, and then we'll find one that's kind of basic. There's a bunch of them that are already like pre-made. These are ones that come with Adobe. We can make our own. So we'll grab one that's like in the greens. We want it pretty simple. We don't need it like crazy. This is actually pretty close to what the creature gradient looks like. So we're going to throw a gradient on there. And we'll just move it down a bit just because that's not really working. Let's try one more. We'll do it on a new layer. So we'll do this on the layer above. And we'll turn this into a clipping mask in just a second. So we'll hit create clipping mask. We'll throw the gradient on. You can see how it's creating that effect for us already. It looks pretty good. Now the wood itself, not super happy with it, so we're gonna keep it pretty classic like a creature graphic would be. And we're gonna actually, I'm gonna open up a reference just to see if I can get somewhat of a close color. Really quick on my iPad. So many screens right now. Alright. So I'm just gonna look and see what the purple was that they typically use. It's like this weird, crazy dark purple. So I just want to like find it. I already sampled some of these colors earlier in a palette, so there it is. And we'll just get the hexadecimals on there. Okay, so we got the hexadecimal code for the purple. And what a hexadecimal code is essentially what this color would be represented in the coordinate points digitally. So you can enter this value in. It's typically like a 6-digit number. And this is one of the only bridges you have between CYMK and RGB. This is something that gets you somewhat close to both. Now, the reason I'm working in RGB is because working in CYMK, the colors are not going to be as vibrant. This is just like a general rendering. If you were to do this in print, you typically need to design in an RGB format. So I'm just going to grab the paint bucket tool. I'm going to throw the purple on there. I don't like how that looks, and I'm not done yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into blending modes, and we're going to actually work and check out a few different blending modes to see what, if we can get that kind of classic Creature Skateboards stained dark purple ply that they're known for. Ooh, maybe I could even do a different, I could even do the reverse and do a purple gradient with black on the logo, maybe. Yeah, because this classic, that classic green just looks really nice. So we'll save that, we'll duplicate it, just because we like how that looks so far. And that's just a different type of overlay process. So I think it would be probably closer to like multiplier screen. The screen's too dark. Multiply is good. The opacity is a little harsh, so we're going to bring that down just a bit. We want it to stay dark though, so we might even, what we can do is we can bring the opacity down, and then we can actually change the color, and we'll just make it a little bit darker so it reads better. There we go. So that looks kind of accurate. It's not, still not quite what I'm looking for. We want it to really look like the wood is stained, you know. So that's gonna be a little difficult to do. So I could let's just save it and see how it looks really fast. Okay, hit save, and then we'll go back, and that looks not too bad, but you really can't see the wood grain effect. So I think there needs to be something that goes around the letters to really make them stand out. They look a little sort of stagnant and not too good. So what we can do is we can actually we can add some other details to it. We'll do a drop shadow effect, or we'll do a duplicate layer. That might be easier to manipulate. So why don't we try that? So we'll go back into this file. We're going to duplicate this one down here, and we're going to recreate this clipping mask so we have it. And we'll just make this create clipping mask. There we go. And then we have the layer underneath, which is in black. And we're just going to shift this down and over to give this kind of a drop shadowed effect. And that looks pretty good, actually. I like how that's looking so far. And we're going to rescale the artwork a bit. So that looks okay. I'm pretty happy with that. I think there's still some things that could be adjusted on here to really make it stand out. The purple is not really working, so let's try this green. And let's actually try making this piece here. We'll duplicate it so we have another one. Let's try doing a purple overlay and see how that looks. So actually just hit cancel, grab the paint bucket, and it's going to take a second for it to load. let's try just painting it in and seeing how that looks actually really quick. So we can just add some noise. It just looks too clean to me. I don't really like how clean it looks. I think it needs something else to really stand out. And I think the drop shadow in this instance doesn't really help either. So let's go bring it back, and we're gonna actually do another process on here. So I'm gonna go into my Photoshop actions, and we're actually going to do just a little effect. This is from True Grit Texture Supply. So this is one of their pre-made little, I don't know how else to describe it. It's like, essentially what it is like a type of effect that alters the state of your work a little bit. So we're gonna go under Windows, we're gonna open Actions up, and this is a True Grit action here. So this is one of the default actions I have saved inside of here. We're gonna hit the stress press action, go down, and then we have to select the object, and it's not gonna let me do it. Hang on a second, that's weird. So here we go, we have to remove white, I'll hit play. We'll grab this next one, and now we're gonna hit play again. It's gonna go through a series of different things here, which I'm gonna have to go through and just kind of edit. And what it's doing now is just the process it would take to do this if this were another object. It's creating a clipping mask again. And we just keep hitting continue, and we're gonna actually adjust some of these little weird transparencies and the radius, smoothing, all that. Hit OK. You can't see it right now, it's taking too long to load. Just keep hitting continue. Now we can see here, you see this little screen? This looks a lot better, like this weird bits of noise. We can add more, we can add less. I actually kind of like how it looks on its own. It does get rid of a lot of the detail, but that's okay, we have it on another layer. So we'll just hit OK. Hit continue. I don't like the cell sizes, so we're gonna keep the cell sizes kind of low. Hit OK again. Just keep hitting continue. I'm not going to add anything else. I think this is okay. I think the spray radials look a little weird, so we'll bring those down a little bit. And I want there to be more texture, so we're going to bring the not that far down, just a little bit. Let's keep adjusting. We don't want it too smooth. Hit OK. And just keep hitting continue. I'm not sure how many of those screens you guys were able to see. I'm just going to hit OK there. Continue. It's a bit of a process for it to work. Now the layer got turned off, but now when we turn it back on, if it'll let me, 1 second. Let's get rid of this and make it white. So it's not showing up because the wrong layer is not what it should be. That's weird. Oh, there we go. Sweet. So now we have this layer on here, and we can kind of see the lettering looks a little crazy. We're going to change that back to black really fast just because it's what we're going for. Hit OK. And we're still getting some issues here, so I'm going to actually, I'm just going to manipulate this a little bit. So we're going to grab our selection tool, and we're just going to erase some stuff on this layer here. I'm actually just going to do this by hand. And we're just going to erase some of these letters and just see how they kind of look really fast, just to make sure it's what it's supposed to be doing. We're just going to invert it really fast, and that might actually bring out the texture we're going for. Okay, so that looks pretty good. That's not what I was going for, but it still looks pretty good. Actually, let's check that out, actually. Sometimes these little accents are kind of sweet when you actually get to do stuff with them like that. That looks kind of cool. Not really what I'm going for. It's got a bit of a Goosebumps vibe, which is not bad, but not the intended goal. So we'll go back in and we'll just hit Option and click on this mask. We'll invert it one more time, and now we'll actually have what we're going for. So that's what we're looking for. We'll turn on this layer underneath it. We'll get some of those other distressed things back. And now this is working in a way that's not destructive. So if I wanted to, I can make a bunch of changes. A lot of the distorted detail with the weird sort of like, I don't know what to call them, the weird stringy parts, like the gooey slime parts or cobwebs, they don't have the same texture as the rest of the letters, and that's okay. I think it actually looks okay. It's not the end of the world, but that's something to be aware of. You have a lot of texture and you have stuff that's not super textured. So we're going to actually, because we have this duplicated, we're going to just duplicate this one more time so it's in the same spot. And let me just delete this one because it's getting a little tricky to see. So we'll just duplicate this one more time. We'll hide it, and then we're going to actually merge these now. So I like how they look. So we'll just select both of those. You can right click and hit merge. So those are together. We have a weird drop shadow that we can put behind it. Let's add this clipping mask layer really fast. So right click, create clipping mask. And we have that sort of dark value again. And then we'll add our drop shadow to this. Now the texture definitely improves it. I think it was missing something, and that might have been it. So let's just duplicate it as well, and we'll keep it in black. All right, there we go. Bring that shadow down, and we're gonna bring it kind of far over. Actually, I think that will really help. Now I could add some more noise to this if I wanted to kind of give it more depth. It looks pretty cool so far. It looks like a creature graphic for sure. Definitely looks like I would skate from back when I was younger. That's even kind of cool too if I were to do some other weird effects. I kind of like that. Now let's try rotating it. So most of this process for me is like experimentation when I'm doing graphics like this. And it's just kind of seeing what I like and what I don't like. Now let's see, that looks kind of cool actually. So you got like the reverse. Now let's just change the opacity with like the blending mode. Oh yeah, that's pretty sick. So that's cool, but it's still a little hard to read. We're gonna try that purple again. Got a bunch of like different notifications we're getting from other places. Sorry guys. Alright, that's the one with the interesting blending mode. That's the darker blending mode. Well, that's kind of cool. But it's not really creature skateboards looking to me. Okay. Almost there. Alright, so we're getting some weird connection issues. Let me just try this instead. I'm just going to duplicate it and then we'll hide both of these. Okay, that looks better. Now there's not like any highlights or anything, and I would typically add like weird little highlights. We would grab something that's like in the same color family. So we'll select this and we'll just bring the value up a little bit so it's a little bit brighter. And I would typically, what I would do is I would actually go back and go in with a brush. So I'm just gonna see if I can figure out a way to do that without messing up the whole setup. So just move the iPad out of the way. So I'm on like finally got the new desk in, so I have like a proper place to work. I want to get some monitor arms so I can actually hook up the Cintiq that way, and I don't have to do this every time where I'm like switching back and forth between a bunch of different surfaces and tools and whatnot. So I just moving everything over real fast. Just give me a second. And I always grab my Apple Pencil when I'm trying to grab my Cintiq pencil. They're not universal, unfortunately. I wish they were. The Apple Pencil is so much better, in my opinion. I'm just moving my keyboard over too, just so I can grab everything. Okay. Sick. So we got that pencil, and we're just gonna adjust a few things really fast. Just bear with me a second. Yeah, that's a classic Creature skateboard color right there. That's kind of like their aesthetic and their look. They've been doing that for years. All right. So 1 second, I just gotta rescale this because I brought it to a new screen. Okay, we're on a much smaller screen ratio, so this is gonna just take me a second. Okay. Now the resolution of this file is pretty low because it's a mock-up, and this is just like a digital representation of what I would be doing. We're just gonna grab some other things really fast, and I'm just gonna get to work. We're gonna hide some of these windows because you don't need to see them all. Just expand this over 1 second. All right, and all I really need to see is the layers. And we're going to keep this on this little clipping mask. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be altering color on top, and I can actually make a new layer and just add that as a create clipping. So now when I draw, brush is way too big. But now when I draw, you can kind of see it's going to be like in those specific areas. So I'm just going to grab some other brushes that kind of fit with the feeling of this piece and just see what we like. So we're going to add some texture to this with this brush and just see what we think of it. And this is just like a little distressing brush. The more texture that you can add to a piece like this, in my opinion, I think it helps add to the overall look to a piece like this. And I like this this weird sort of gradient look with the ply. I think the ply showing would be really cool. And I'm not working distractively either. This is all on layers, so I can turn this stuff off if I think something looks bad. It's not the end of the world, but just something to be like aware of. Yeah, the new desk so far, I'm loving it, man. I'm sitting down right now, but it is a like adjustable desk that I can stand at as well. And packing orders and stuff on a standing desk is so much easier and stuff. I know it sounds ridiculous, but like it makes such a huge difference. I wish I got one sooner, to be honest with you. Okay, let's see what else we got for some other textured brushes. There's quite a few in this library. This is more of the distress press ones. Let's see some of the samplers. Yeah, so we're gonna go with this lazy stippler brush. We're gonna scale it down if it will. Yeah, it will. Nice. So this is like a nice kind of cool brush. We're gonna go and we're gonna just do a few altered changes. It's weird going from the iPad back to a Cintiq because the like the touch gestures, obviously they're not the same. So like trying to like edit it to go back is just not the same at all. All right, we're gonna grab another highlight color, and we're gonna do this again on like a non-destructive layer. So we'll just duplicate here. Let's start with like a white, and we can just manipulate the color afterwards. We're not gonna do exact white. We're gonna do like slightly off. Maybe even, you know, let's try black actually and see if that actually helps with this. So we got the stipple brush, and it's only showed up as that highlight layer. 1 second. Didn't change the color. My bad. Alright, so basically what I'm doing is I'm just going to try to like shape in some sort of like weird gradiated effect. When I zoom out, you'll be able to see it better. It's just a little hard with the resolution of this file is low. And all I'm doing is I'm just going to paint that in. I'm going to turn off this other layer really fast just so we can kind of see what I'm doing. Yeah, I think this will add to it quite a bit. It's just not quite there yet, but it's getting close. I think it's just going to take a little bit more time, just kind of like planning out the brushes. Now, sorry it's so blurry here. It's because, again, the resolution of this file is small, and that's just because it's a mock-up. It's not final print resolution, but you can still get a similar effect. If I were to do this as like final artwork, I was happy with this, I would be doing a slightly different process. But just to give you guys a general idea of how you do these mock-ups, I get a lot of questions about those. In particular is how I make them, or where I get them, or how to use them once you find them. So I figured I would just kind of show you guys. This is actually what I do for all of my social media posts once I'm done finishing a graphic for a client even. So when they want to like see their board, like what it would look like, this is how I go about that. And I just, you know, shade it how I would traditionally. And we'll just kind of scroll down and we'll just, you know, we'll whip it out, do like the whip shading down effect. With Photoshop, it's not as quick as Procreate, and we are working in a pixel-based software right now. So I could technically bring this back after I did the vector and then bring it back to Procreate. But I think it's just intuitive at this point. It's too hard for me to set up and show you guys. So that's the other thing. It's like trying to show you guys this stuff and then make it so I can actually see what I'm doing is really hard. Alright, so that doesn't look too bad. I don't think it's adding value to it because you can't really see the texture at this size. So I think we'll just stick with that. We'll switch to another brush. There needs to be something on here to really like make it pop. I think it just needs some highlights. So we're gonna get something that like kind of goes well with this purple, and we're just gonna make some highlights on there. So let's grab the eyedropper tool. We'll get the purple we used before. We'll bring the value up again. Let's find like a nice highlight. Still kind of looks purpley, but not too bad. This light lavender might be kind of nice. All right, and we're just gonna turn this layer. Just gonna get rid of this layer because it just doesn't look good. So yeah, this is just like experimentation because I don't really have a plan or direction. This is just like how I would do it. Well, it looks kind of nice to me. Oh, maybe the half tones would be fun. Yeah, there's so many things that you can do. And you can kind of see like the size of these brushes. They're massive because they're meant to be worked on massive files. So that's why they look like that. Hang on, guys, 1 second. 1 second, guys, sorry. Yeah, it's on. I'm actually in the middle of a live stream. Can I? Yeah, no worries. I'll probably be on for like another hour sorry. All right, man. Cool. All right, peace. Sorry about that, guys. My boy Matt just gave me a call. Yeah, so it's just kind of experimentation when you're doing stuff like this and you're not really sure. I kind of like how this looks. Maybe not the color, but I do like the like that sort of weird texture on there. I think it looks pretty neat, actually. And I like that it's messy. I like that it's not clean. It adds some kind of like cool contrasty values to the art. I still feel like it needs like a sharp highlight to really distinguish it from the rest of the texture on here. And if I were to do this again, like I was saying, like if I were to make this a print file, there's some things I would do a little differently to make it more legible for print. But this is just kind of like the rough idea. And I'm just going to grab a softer eraser, and I'm going to erase it on all the veiny parts. I don't think I want it on those. I want those to stand out differently. Brush sizes. See, like some areas they look good, and some areas like I think they take away from the art. Different on the T, actually, that was fine. Okay, that looks pretty sick, actually. I'm pretty happy with that. We'll just clean up a few of these other spots really quickly. And to do all this work right now, I'm using a Wacom Cintiq, or Wacom Cintiq, which however you want to pronounce it. I hear it both ways, and every time I hear it both ways, it drives me nuts. So that's it. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to go hit File. We're going to hit just hit Save, or you can do Command S. I'm on a Mac, so it looks a little differently. All right, so that looks pretty sick. I'm kind of happy with that. We're going to change the spacing and the scale of the board now. So we'll go back to our layer, and we're going to grab all this art that we have, and we're going to group it all together. So we'll just select everything that we're going to need to shift and edit. So that's all the type in the font. So we'll shift, click the other one. We'll hit this little folder here that makes it a group, and we'll grab our direct selection arrow, or you can hit V. And we're gonna just mess with the scaling a little bit. So we're gonna just scale it up, shift it over, let's tweak it a little bit. We can even tweak it like that. I'll just kind of go end to end. And let's just bring it down a little bit. And bring it back a bit. Hit OK. Command S to save it. Yeah, that looks hell yeah. All right, so that's one version of the graphic down. I kind of like how that looks, actually. It's kind of fun. We can do even a simpler version, and we can just do like an all black and white version, so we'll do that next. So we're just going to copy, just hit Command Copy. Actually, you know what? Let's go back to the altered one that we made, because I actually like that a bit more. So we're just going to select all this same stuff. We're just going to click and drag it. Once I open the right one, hang on. We're going to grab board 1 here. We're going to hit this design, and we're just going to do the same thing. So we're just going to delete this. We're going to grab everything we want from this other edited version here. So everything that we want from that. So we'll just hit Shift. We're going to click and drag it over. You could copy and paste it. We're just going to drag it over. It's fine. And we'll just line it up. I have all my snap auto grids on, so it's not that hard to do. So that looks pretty good. We're going to do a different version now. We're actually going to do one that's got a different gradient style, I think. I do like the look of this gradient style, but we're going to do something a little different. Let's do some like all black letter, and let's keep it a little bit more traditional. Let's change this ply color first off. Let's actually keep this one up. But for now, let's work on like the actual like graphic application. So I've never seen a creature board personally with the stained black ply. But I always see a lot of creature graphics with the heavy all black. And we're going to try that out. We're going to see actually if we can make that look really good. And sorry the color's a little off on the screen here. It's a little bit better than the iPad though. That's pretty accurate actually now that I'm looking at it. That's good. On the iPad it's so off. It's terrible. We're just checking out different blending modes to see if there's one that works. It is black, so it's not going to necessarily look it's not going to look very good to try to get the grain the way we want it. Get like a weird neutralized color like that or something, but alright, we're going to keep this pretty dark. This isn't pure black, so we're going to switch down and something a little bit darker because we are working in RGB right now, just because this is meant for web. Alright, so we have that. We're going to turn on this layer. Even that looks fine. Like, I actually like that without the drop shadow and all the other nonsense. So why don't we scale this back? That looks really good, actually. I'm pumped on that. We're going to scale this color up so it's trapped in. And actually, let's alter this one a little bit and make it fit on the graphic or on the board a bit better. So we'll scale it. We're going to turn it. And just gonna kind of mess around with it. And now the layers are gonna be off a little bit because I'm doing a different technique. So this looks really cool. They also do a lot of black and white graphics, which is something that I could incorporate if I wanted instead. And I can just turn on that. We'll get the classic creature logo. There's a lot of texture that you can still see. And that's these highlights, so we'll remove those just for a second and see how it looks. This looks pretty cool, so I think what we could do is we can take our selection tool, we'll grab the magic wand tool, we'll grab this layer, and we could either do a selection and delete it. Well, we're going to do a type of clipping mask design. So one second, let me show you how to do that. Right, so let's bring this one back. So that looks really good. I'm actually really happy with that. On this layer here though, what we have is just the black. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually take this layer here. We're going to make a layer mask. So you guys can kind of see how I do that. Just one second. Just getting a little quick selection, just a second. Sorry, guys. So just grabbing the marquee tool, that's an M on the keyboard. We're going to hit Command Copy. We're going to go back onto this layer. We're going to hit Option and select a little white box. And we're going to hit Command V. Command Shift V to make sure it's in the appropriate spot, just in case it's not. Hit Command D. This part, we're going to erase this. So you can kind of see this little faint outline. We want to delete that. So we're just going to use the eraser tool because we don't need to get super fancy. This is just like a quick process, but we want to delete all that. I'll show you why in a second. Okay, so what I did there is essentially we're not going to use the layer underneath now. I've created a little clipping mask so the wood grain can show through. And we're going to actually grab this same gradient that we have here. We're going to duplicate it so we have another one. We're going to bring it down. And we're just going to put it on top of the wood. And we'll bring those blending modes back because I wanted to have the plies underneath showing. Yeah, that looks sick. I really like that a lot, actually. And what we can do now is if we want to alter this, all we do, and this isn't destructive either, you can actually just go back in and you can hit Option again and click on this, and then you alter this layer, and this will actually alter the mask. So it doesn't do anything, it doesn't destroy anything we've already done. We're going to hit Command S again to save it. We're going to check out how these look. Super sick. I already like all of these. So these look pretty cool. We could do one more, I think. I think one more would be fine. Let's try. I'm trying to think what else I could do. I haven't looked at any like newer creature graphics recently. I probably should. I used to skate a lot of their boards, and just because they have like a really nice steep nose. Those Santa Cruz are all the same distributor, so they have similar shapes, just different branding. Let's see what they've been up to. Real quick on a new tab. So I'm just going to check out what they have going on Instagram. Yeah, a lot of clips. As far as board graphics go, they've been kind of touching with some new colors, so that's nice to see. Still got the classic black and green. They've always done that, black, green, and white. They also have some blues and some like bright neon pinks going on, so that's kind of a cool look and aesthetic. I'm into that. Let's see. Still the classic black and green. You can't beat that. Yeah, I think I got to straighten that one that we just did out a little bit, and we'll make it fit within the proper like trucks and whatnot. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we can definitely do some cool stuff with this. Just looking to see what they've been doing lately. So they have some other logos that we can add. And this logo that I made here was actually inspired by the Creature Black Metal video that came out. God, I think that was like 2008, 2009. But it's an awesome video. It's really good. And then the following video was Heshlaw, another great Creature classic. Some amazing skateboarding in that. Stuff that definitely heavily influenced me in a good and in a bad way. As far as like my skate style goes. All right, we're gonna alter this layer real quick. Just make it fit. We'll have to do a little bit of cleanup work, I think. So let's just get that where we want it, and we're gonna bring it up a little bit more on this corner. And we're gonna just equal it out. Make sure the spacing's good. And you can see we have this gap here. We want to make sure we cover that, or it's going to show up on the graphics. So we'll grab paintbrush. Oh no, it corrected itself. Okay. No, it did not. See, so that's what you want to check. So we're going to scale this gradient back up because it's moved it a little bit, and that's not too big a deal. Just hit V, and you just kind of stretch it back out. That's where it wants to go. Now in this one, what we need to do is we need to fill in the areas that have been altered. So let's just double check. It's not on the mask, but we're going to fill those in anyway. And we'll grab a much more solid brush. We'll do a hard round brush. Just so we have it, we'll just double check this. So it's actually just on this layer, so that's fine. And we'll just clean it up with our brush really fast. So again, with the same brush, it's a hard round brush. Or you could use the bucket tool and risk trying to get it exact, but you probably won't. So just a little pro tip. Okay. And just hold the shift down, pull it across. And now let's just double check the board. Oh yeah, that looks way better. So a little bit more even and super easy for them to throw on other creature graphics and logos on here. So they can put it on the nose or the tail. I'm actually really happy with how these all are coming out so far. Even the really textured one, it's still pretty cool actually. I like that one a lot. I think maybe one of the last ones would be, I'm trying to think actually. I feel like it needs something else. I feel like there needs to be like a bolder graphic. Most of their stuff is really, really deliberate. It's got that super graphic feel to it. They don't do a lot of stuff with texture like this. They do a lot of like ink texture, and this doesn't necessarily fit. So like an all black and white graphic would be cool. So let's try that. Let's keep it classic black metal. And we're just gonna copy this this mask layer on the new one. So we're gonna close this one for now. We're happy with it. We've already hit save on it. So let's grab this third board right here. So that's 1, that's 2. Let's grab board 3. The design. Get this bullshit out of here. Jeez. All right, let's grab. We're gonna grab just the clipping mask. That's all we need, and we're gonna drag it on here if it'll let me. It did. Sick. That was easy. All right, we're gonna line it up. Looks pretty good. We're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna add. Oh, I wonder if silver foil would look cool. What do you guys think? Silver? Okay, the black and white would be cool, but I think doing a silver board would be even cooler. Let's try it. We'll start with the black and white, I guess, first. All right, we got the classic, you know, death metal. Is it trees or letters? Look on here. Oh fuck yeah, that looks so sick actually. I can't even deny that one. I like that one a lot. So we need some other logos here. So we need some creature logos. Let's find some stuff to throw in here for these mock-ups. They have the Fiends crew or whatever, like their old Fiend logo. Let's find that one. Okay, let's see. Creature skateboards logos. All right, let's see. So they have a couple. They have like the classic creature skull. They have yeah, they still got some cool ones. They have the classic black metal one too. The regular creature logo, which I don't think I need to put creature on here twice. I think there's just no point of that. So this is actually not a commissioned project. This is a part of the Creature Skateboards Design a Board contest they're doing right now. Actually, let me pull up the rules so you guys can enter if you want. It's actually really awesome. All right, on Instagram. So this is a Design a Board contest they're running. Let me pull up the official rules here. One second. Okay, so Creature Skateboards. This is a contest with Creature Skateboards and Juxtaposed Magazine. And basically it's the Creature Graphic Freakout. I'll just read what they have here. Think you got what it takes to create a graphic for Creature? You probably don't. Try anyway. One lucky winner will be chosen to have their art represented on a limited edition Creature Skateboard. Plus plus a year subscription to Juxtaposed Magazine, $500, and bragging rights, obviously. Fan will also have their chance to vote for their Creature Fiend favorites. So there's a Creature Fiend favorite hashtag. So when I post this, if you guys want, go vote. That'd be sick. Or if you're doing your own, I'd love to see them. So you can even like tag me. I'd love to check those out. Then you win a bunch of other weird merch and a copy of Juxtaposed Black and White book, which is coming out, which is going to be really sick, actually. I'm excited to see that. And there's just a template. You can download it, and this is off of Creature Fiends, the official Instagram of Creature Skateboards. So check that out. Must be 18 or older to enter. So sorry if you're not 18 or older. Let's see. Can submit as many designs as you want. So this is just like my first round of designs. I have about 20 ideas that I've been oh, sorry. Not that that's important. I have about like 20 ideas of like what I want to do for this. So I'm kind of excited. I even changed the lighting for it. I got purple light. We got this green light on here to fit with the Creature vibe, you know? We got it going on. So yeah, this will be like a fun contest. I have a bunch of ideas, but the main thing about this to know is that the ideas have to be completely original. You can use your old artwork, but it can't be already used for something else. I have a ton of graphics that I've already made for other brands that were rejected because they're too intense and like heavy. So they're perfect fits for Creature, which is awesome. Yeah, and it's also open internationally, so a lot of people that watch the stream are international. So yeah, guys, check that out. That's pretty fun. I'm actually really stoked on how all these boards look right now. I'm going to actually move these over, and I'm going to duplicate, and we're going to do a few other versions. We're going to try a silver foil and see how that looks. And I feel like they could use a tail graphic, so I was looking at some logos. But all I'm finding are the classic Creature logo, and I don't think it needs to have Creature on there twice. Let's look for the CSFU. Yeah. That's a classic one that always looks good. Yeah, a bunch of old Halloween concept ideas. It's like old Halloween decorations. I think would be really sick to do. Yeah, they don't have a good version of this logo. I don't want to remake it right now. Bummer. Let's see. All right, I can't find a good logo to put on here right now, so we're gonna try to do the silver graphic and see if that looks good. I'm not gonna do gold because that's just not really Creature vibes. If they were to do anything, it would be like classic black metal Silver Moon shit. Okay, so these look pretty good. We're gonna select all three of these. We're gonna shift them up, and we're gonna actually make another one. So I'm just shifting these boards up so I can fit a few more on here without having to open a new file and start this whole process all over again because I'm pretty happy with most of it. Some of the other graphics, I'm going to try to sketch them out because it takes too long for me to sketch them on stream. It takes hours sometimes. So I'm not going to do that. We're going to just stick with the process where I'll sketch stuff. If people really want to watch one of those streams, I'll try to do one, but they're exhausting for me because I have to talk the whole time and I'm trying to focus, and then I feel like I'm ignoring people, but I'm not trying to. So I might try to do some version of that. Hang on, this is going to take a little while to load. Stop. I think I went too high. Yep. Okay, there we go. All right, so we have everything we need. We're going to duplicate the third one. And we're just going to bring it down, and then we're going to actually, this is the one I'm going to try to do a silver effect. Not sure how it's going to come out. I think I have some silver gradients saved. If I have to make one, it'll take me a little while. I think there might even be some pre-built ones in Photoshop, but it's been a while since I've had to use Photoshop. Do most of my design work in just Adobe Illustrator, and I send it off to clients. It's a little bit easier that way. All the mock-ups and stuff like already done. All right, so this is the one we're going for. We're going to go on the gradients. This one's pretty good. There's definitely other gradients that they have, like weird metals and stuff. Maybe not. Maybe they got rid of them. Interesting, interesting. Oh yeah, here we go. There's like the fake silver. Let's try that one out. That doesn't look good at all. Kind of looks silvery, right? Yeah, doesn't have that like pop to it. Oh, some of these pastels would just be really funny. Yeah, that's kind of sick. I don't think there's a chance in hell they would ever use any of these, but I don't know. Maybe let's try a few more. Let's try some weird ones out. Yeah, I kind of like that. Let's see how this looks, actually. Oh, it changes both. Okay, so that's not good. So why it's doing that is because this is the same name and same title. So I have to rename this one or like merge one. So let me just merge the copy. And that one that can't be edited now. So we have one that can be edited. So that's just like my fault for not thinking about the save paths. Ooh, bummer. Okay, so what can happen when you're working with these save paths like this? You can accidentally do things you don't intend to do, which I just did. So I need to reopen the file really fast for this one. So let me show you what I mean. So what happened was the design file got corrupted, which is like a smart link to that other file. So that'll happen occasionally in some of these. If you're not careful, you just gotta really pay attention. So all we gotta do is just edit this. And I'm just gonna grab this from the corrupted one and bring it onto the live file. It can get a little tricky and confusing. Alright, so that one, I actually really like this one quite a bit. I think this is really cool. Alright, and then bam. So now we have all these different versions. The chrome, I don't think it's going to work. I think this looks pretty good though. It's getting a little late. I've been on stream for 3.5 hours almost. So it's a process to do all this stuff, but thank you guys for checking it out. I'm going to actually upload some of these on Instagram and see what people like. Maybe I don't know. Maybe this will be my first submission. I'm going to try to do 2 board tomorrow after some client work. Also, I got like a bunch of new videos, and I'd love if you guys want to check those out as well. There's some just time-lapse videos of some past projects. Thanks, man. You have a good one as well. Yeah, the channel's been doing really good lately, so super thankful for everyone that's been checking out that's new. One of the big things I've been trying to get to 600 subscribers, and we're almost there. We're almost there. We're 15 away, so that's awesome. It's been growing. I'm hoping it gets a little bit more soon, so definitely share the channel if you know anyone that might be interested in the style of art, things like that. I want to check it out. It's 585 right now, so I want to try to get to 600 by next week. Hopefully we can do that. But that'll be it for this one. So in total so far, work time on this, not including what I've done on off stream, or no, including what I've done off stream, it's over. I'd say we're approaching like 8.5 hours. Yeah. Oh, and put on the notice too. Yeah, you're right. There's like a little bell icon you can get. You also can join the Discord server. There's a link for it if you're new to the streams. That's in the description. You can join the Discord server if you want. This is going to be the last week that the Discord server is open for free before it goes on as a Patreon reward. So if you guys want to join the Discord server, you can do that. The link is a 24-hour link. It's in the description of the video. Make sure to join. You can also invite people to the Discord server or share that link with them for the next 24 hours. And then the next stream, which will be hopefully tomorrow night, I'll be doing the same thing. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching. That's going to do it for tonight's stream. I'm going to just zoom in real quick so you guys can kind of see these boards just really fast. And we'll just show each one off really fast. So we have this top one, which is my personal favorite. I think that's that one's really cool. The textured one, which is pretty fun. Classic black and white, like black metal looking. Definitely could use a creature logo somewhere on here. But this last one, like the weird pastel colors, that one's pretty sick actually. I kind of like that one a lot. So I think I'm gonna I might mess around with these a little bit more off stream. I gotta order some dinner for myself. But again, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you in the next one, hopefully tomorrow. But still sticking with the Thursday schedule for 5. So every Thursday at 5, I'm doing a live stream. Be posting some more stuff. Sorry, the thumbnail's misleading. I got a new camera as well, so I'll be filming with that. But that's a photo I took from last night. I thought it was kind of nice. But all right, guys. Yeah, thanks for watching.